Hey, what's up, YouTube? So I just wanted to make a video on my thoughts on the final chapter of Attack on Titan, chapter 139. It was a pretty big deal. I've been reading this story for a long time, and I figured I'd just put my thoughts out there because honestly, it was a fucking shit show. And, yeah, I was just wondering if other people felt that way, right? So I took a lot of notes, right? These are all just notes that I took during the last chapter. These are just going to be my thoughts on what exactly Isayama did to his manga with this chapter. So, take it with what it is, right? This is like how I see it. This isn't confirmed, but I do use I cross-reference a lot of like stuff in the chapter, right? Like I like to pay attention when I read, and I feel like there was a lot of stuff in this chapter, so, you know. Um yeah. So before you jump down my throat, if you disagree with this, just hear me out. And yeah, let's get into this. It's gonna be a doozy of a video. I haven't really made anything like this before. I've never really just done a review of a chapter, but it seems appropriate. So let's start it off, man. It starts off in paths, with Eren and Armin right after Mikasa kisses Eren inside of the head, right? So they instantly hop into paths, and you have basically Armin complaining that, like, damn, did you really need to treat me and Mikasa the way we did, or the way you did, right? And I'm pretty sure he was referring back to when they're at that round table, and he tells Mikasa that he hates her, and then he beats the shit out of Armin, right? Pretty good. He asks him about like why he was getting hit and stuff. And he's like, I was desperate to separate myself from you guys. And I'm like, all right, that was all right. It was interesting, but after he destroyed Mikasa just randomly that episode, I was kind of expecting him to readdress it, right? There wasn't any way like he was just gonna leave with like I hate you permanently. It felt really weird, right, at the time. So now he's trying to push her away. That kind of makes sense, right? All right. Armin then asks if he did this just to set them up as heroes and to save all of humanity. Eren replies with, "That's right," and I copy this verbatim. "That's right. All remaining people in the world now owe you a tremendous debt. The world will hold you in the highest regard. At least that's my plan." Now, this is where I think a lot of people would get lost, myself included, because this isn't what he was trying to do, right? This wasn't his motivation. That wasn't it at all. This whole time since the time skip, I'm pretty sure his motivation was to stop this cycle of hatred by eliminating all of the threats outside of the walls, right? That's been his deal for a really long time. And just to further elaborate on that, like, look at this. Not everyone outside the island is our enemy. Just like your mother, most of them would suddenly be killed without ever understanding why. I know. But the only way to put an end to the cycle of revenge born from hate is to bury that history and the civilization that created it deep in the ground. Literally his own words. So, this goes against that completely. Because now he's saying that this is the only way to set them up, right? So it was kind of weird that he would do this, and that basically one of his biggest motivations just got denied, just right there, in my opinion. One of his biggest ones, right? Because obviously when Eren started the story and like his mother died and he swore vengeance on these Titans, he said, I just want to kill all the Titans. And that was his big thing for a long time. Being born in this world, I want to destroy all the Titans. And that was his motive for a long time. Until he found out what was in the basement, right? Until he found out what was in the basement. And he decided that, oh, these things are just victims all the same. If I wanted to stop something, it doesn't really make sense to go after the disease. You don't try and cure the symptoms, you cure the disease, right? So the disease would obviously be all these people on the other side of the ocean who were sending waves of Titans at them using scorched earth tactics in order to bleed them out. That makes perfect sense, right? So his idea would be that if you were to remove everyone doing all that shit, they could just live happily. Now, does that equate in genocide? Yes. Am I okay with that? Only a little bit, and for like a certain reason. So like, I don't really care about an ending involving genocide or not. What I care about is Eren's character remaining intact. What I cared about was his motivations remaining true to him, and for him to not really just become a hypocrite. Yeah. That was kind of what I was really wanting from him. So like basically if Eren grew up and because of all the shit that happened to him, he turned into this like bad person that wanted to just fucking kill the whole world. That's understandable, right? Cuz we saw him grow up into this person. We saw all the choices build up on top of each other, which led to him becoming this like cold individual who might make that choice, right? Whether it's good or not, right? That doesn't even matter. It's just him as a person having his own agenda and then following it. That's what I wanted to see happen. All right. But instead, that was all just a persona. I'll cover that more in a little bit. So yeah, back to what they were talking about. So Eren confirms that 80% of the world is rumbled. That's pretty brutal. But can you see the problem here? So the last chapter, the rumbling stopped, right? Which means that it won't start again, obviously. I mean, I've read the rest of the chapter, it doesn't start again. So 80% of the world's dead to the rumbling, which obviously means that the remaining 20% of the world still exists, plus paradise, right? It's not like the remaining 20% of the world is paradise. It's paradise plus the 20%. So that means that there's still people alive to let the cycle recontinue, right? Like the whole point of going to lengths to kill everyone is to wipe out any chance that someone would just restart this war off of revenge. And only killing out 80% of the world leaves out the possibility that would happen again. You could almost say this is the worst way you could do it, right? Because these measures are really bad and will be fruitless unless you go all the way, in my opinion. So if you want to be like, yeah, we'll just kill them out. They can't hate us if they're dead, you know? Then make sure they're all dead. Because if you don't, like, people have gone to war over way less. Way less. Like, if you think that these remaining people, even if they're not in a state where they could right away retaliate, even if it's not in this generation, we've seen cyclical and like institutionalized hatred just in characters in general, right? Like the way that the Marleyans treated the Eldians and the way that they were forced to treat their kids about themselves, like all this like propaganda and shit. And all right, so like yeah, there's all these people left, and so in my head, like if there's people left over who remembered what happened, they will tell their kids, hey, there was this one guy from this one place and he killed the whole world and he leads and his people live on this island and blah blah blah. Why don't we just go wipe him out in the name of our ancestors? People do that shit and have been doing that shit for years and years and years. Like that's humanity in a nutshell, man. Like everyone just hates for no reason and then they carry it on for their ancestors and shit, right? So like it's really implausible to me that an 80% rumbling is anything other than the worst outcome. I can't see it being anything worse, right? Because he went to extreme lengths to kill, but didn't kill enough. So he's left with basically a shit ton of extra dead people and enough people left over to continue the cycle. Right? So he didn't even accomplish his goal. He just murdered a lot of people. That was it. Right? And pointless murder, right? It becomes pointless now that the cycle is enabled again, right? Or the cycle has the ability to be enabled again. That makes the whole thing, in my opinion, pointless. Right? Because you could have just gone a different way about it, right? You could have just had your people killed off or something like that. You could have gone with Zeke's plan. but he didn't. Like his goal was to save his boys, and sure he put them in a better place of power afterwards, like in a good place to get set up. But you're setting up that the overlying theme of cyclical hatred is still there and glaring at you, and it won't go away. And I think that's like really kind of gross, like that Eren's entire motivation for doing this changed instantly, and then his goal just died in front of him. That's what it feels like. Anyways, moving on. Eren ends up like showing him some like volcanoes and shit, and Umida. And so he mentions the founder Ymir. This character is probably the worst written character in this entire series, by far. Literally makes no sense. So it's revealed that a lot of this has been caused by Ymir, and the reason for that is that even after 2,000 years, Ymir still continued to submit to King Fritz, which basically is why we have all the Titan powers and shit, right? So she's still submitting to King Fritz after 2,000 years. Now we think, why? Why is Ymir just like still loyal to someone who like abused, tortured? I don't remember if rape was part of it, so I won't say that. But and then he eventually killed her. He fed her to his children, right? Like, it was brutal. And the reason was she was in love. Like, what? For 2,000 years? She was in love? That was it? She was waiting 2,000 years so she could be freed from her pain of love? Okay. And the person that's going to free her is Mikasa? Alright, why? Why would it be Mikasa? Alright, there's some obvious parallels in how they grew up, but there was no interactions, no Ymir looking at Mikasa, except for like the very last panel of 138. There wasn't anything leading up to thinking that Ymir was doing all of this with Mikasa in mind, right? That was never shown, at least to my knowledge. I don't know where that came from. It literally felt like it came out of nowhere. Like, why Mikasa? It doesn't really feel like anything. And so you're sitting there, you're like, well, what the fuck? Why would it be Mikasa? And Eren literally replies verbatim with, well, that's something only the founder Ymir would know. What kind of writing is that, Yams? A lot of the reason why I'm like, I can't tell if you can tell, but I'm mad. A lot of the reason I'm mad is because he's a consistently good fucking writer. If you read chapter 1 to 138, you're sitting here with a fucking plan, with great characters, and a means to an end. It was set up. It's been set up. He's been setting it up for the past at least 15 chapters, a really satisfying end, and he cans it all for this. So it was really weird to just, for someone who's like so meticulous with all these details that he would leave behind to then bring again forward, to then just insert this random bullshit arbitrarily, right? It kind of feels like it came out of nowhere. Like, where did this come from? Why does Ymir care about Mikasa at all? And if she does, why didn't we know about it before? Like, where's the reader's payoff for anticipating this, right? There's two types of readers, right? You get people who get payoff from anticipation, and then you just get people who didn't see it coming and get shocked, right? There was no way to anticipate this at all. And with that, you're just left with this feeling of like confusion and kind of, I mean, in my case, anger. Right? So it's like, it's kind of weird. And then Eren replies, well, that's something only the founder would know. So he literally just writes that off. He literally introduces a new problem, being that that Ymir is still in love. We didn't know that. We had no idea she was still in love, and that the answer was Mikasa. We also didn't know that, but that was also just introduced. And then why is it Mikasa? Well, who the fuck knows? That's what he says. Ymir choosing Mikasa was what led to the end result. Everything was only for the sake of reaching this end result. All I did was to follow this path. This is what he said verbatim. Armin replies with, so that was the future you saw at the Medal Awards ceremony. Eren replies with Armin. My thoughts have become incoherent. The influence of the founder's powers bring about the influence that the founder's powers bring about have no past or future. They all exist at the same time. All right, that's kind of crazy, right? That's so crazy that it retroactively affects the rest of the story. You can't just do shit like that. Like at any like so what he's basically saying, right, is that for a really long, like even before he had the, so like before the founding titan was even injected into him, he was affected by the thoughts and the power of him having it later in the future. Since time is basically it's all one thing for him. It's like a blur. You're sitting here like, so you had the ability to affect literally everything in the story at any point. Everything was in your control. If anything didn't go this way, then it wouldn't lead to the exact conclusion you needed. Eren's basically saying that he understood that he needed to reach exactly this point where Mikasa would cut off his head inside the fucking mouth of a titan while Ymir's watching in order to satisfy Ymir's random fucking love fixation on some dude who abused her 2,000 years ago. And I'm just supposed to be okay with this. Like, that makes no sense. Like, so, like, and the reason it makes no sense is, and another thing that he, like, even doubles down on is he's, like, it shows a picture of, like, Eren talking to Armin with, like, super regret on his face. And he's like, at that time, it was not Bert's time to die. And you could basically see that he infers that he directed the giant titan of Dinah away from Bert to go into the city and then kill his mom, which would then give him the motivation to start doing all this shit. So literally everything had to happen in order. So he had to kill his own mom, by the way. Confirmed. Yeah, that's a fucking meatball. But like the biggest thing about this is that it retroactively shits on a lot of the story, in my opinion. Because if he knew everything all along, why didn't he do stuff differently? That literally, that's the part that, like, I think makes it the worst, is that you introduce later on that he had or that he knew what was going to happen, and he was following a route that was dedicated to getting to this point, and yet he didn't even take the best route possible. Let's in case you're wondering, like, what could he have done differently? Well, here's something. Yeah, actually, I'll get into that in a bit. After that, Eren, so basically, after he confirms that he killed his mom, and that it was literally his direction that enabled that to start all this shit, their past journey continues, and they're going back to the beach basically, and and Armin asks Eren, he's like, yo, what do you really think of Mikasa? And Eren says he doesn't really know, and Armin just knocks him on his ass for some reason. Even though Eren could fight him before. Even though Eren literally just beat the shit out of him, no contest. He just takes this one, whatever. It was an emotional moment, I'll give him that. And Armin, like, jokingly, like, in the scene, he's like, haha, Yeah, she might easily find another good man after you're dead, huh? Well, she'll probably be happy. He's literally just like mocking Eren, and this causes him to like break down crying. Like he erratically breaks down, and while on his butt in the ocean, he yells, "I don't want," and this is verbatim too. "I don't want that. I don't want her to find another guy. I don't want her to I want her to have feelings only for me. Even after I die, I want her to hold me in her heart for a long time." And Armin calls her pathetic. Or calls him pathetic. Now, like, he says he doesn't want to die, and he wants to be with Mikasa and everyone. And then they exit paths, and everyone gets untitanized, right? So that's the series of events. He he gets in there. He asks him about Mikasa. He has a breakdown saying that Mikasa was actually really important this whole time to him, and that he would hate to see her with another man, even though he family zoned the fuck out of her the whole show in manga. And then Armin calls him pathetic. Armin calls our Giga Chad pathetic, right? Hmm. And then they kind of leave it, and then everyone starts getting untitanized, right? So this is where I started to panic. It's like, what the actual fuck? Is this the same main character that I've been reading for the past few years? So let's talk about the best route to get to the point that I was talking about before. Eren stated that his memories are incoherent now, and he can see the past and future and all that shit, and he knows what needs to be done in order to reach this ending. All right? So let's rewind back to the point where everyone was just talking about the rumbling. And the idea was proposed to just feed Historia to Zeke, or feed Zeke to Historia, turning her into the Beast Titan, which would then allow her to create as many offspring as possible, which would be royal babies. They would have royal blood, and then with also having the founding Titan, they could activate the rumbling whenever they wanted, right? That was a pretty good idea for stalling. Pretty good idea. Yeah, pretty good idea. And his idea, or his reasoning for not doing this, was I can't sacrifice my friend like that. I don't want Historia to go through with that. If she becomes a Titan, she's effectively getting a death sentence on top of becoming like a breeding machine. That's kind of weird and inhumane. Sure, I agree. But if you knew that at the end of this, everyone was just going to get untitanized anyways because you were going to get rid of the curse, why not just feed Zeke to her? She'll be a Titan just for a little bit, and then you'll just break the fucking curse. Yeah, like, there was so much extra shit that went on needlessly just because of this. And it felt really weird. And, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I just don't know what happened to his character. Like, we watched this guy grow up for 138 chapters. And by confirming earlier that to Armin that he saw the outcome and understood what he needed to do in order to get there, that makes his entire personality a persona post time skip, right? So like basically what we see here in Paths is Eren reverting back to his like child mental state. We saw that a lot when he was like in the freedom thing. He does this child mental state thing a lot. So it's like he regressed, right? But maybe they're just trying to say that he never even progressed to begin with. He's saying that this entire time, all the actions that Eren made were calculated in order to reach point B, which was this ending of no one being titanized, the curse ending, yada, yada, yada. Okay? But we watched this guy grow up. We watched him grow up for 138 chapters, right? We watched his mom die in front of him. We watched him hate Titans with everything he had. We watched him get training just to kill Titans. We watched him convince people that it's not over and humanity can fight Titans, and he just wants to kill. And then he grows up, all right? He develops. He realizes that it's way more nuanced than that. Obviously, there's humans at play. Obviously, and they're the ones pulling the string. There's more than just these Titans, and to just needlessly aim your anger at these Titans is pointless because you're trying to cure the symptom and not the disease, right? I talked about that earlier. So basically, like he all of this character progression just got undone. It was all fake. Him saying he hates Mikasa, that was a persona to push them far away. Him being this cold motherfucker, ruthlessly pursuing his goals to wipe out humanity because he figures that they're not worth, or them living isn't worth his friends' lives on the inside, and like there's no other way for paradise to survive without everyone else being gone. Like that character wasn't real because of this chapter. That was just a persona. That was literally just him pretending. And that's, I think, my biggest problem. Like with all of his motivations clearly in view, like a lot of his actions make little to no sense. Like I have, just for example, yeah, let's pull up this. So what was this all about? Why did that have to happen to innocent people? Why did so many have to be eaten alive? I don't understand. Why, Reiner? Why was my mom eaten by a titan that day? Well, because we reached the wall that day. Why did you breach the wall? My mission. Alright? This is Eren literally just being a mental terrorist to Reiner while knowing the answer to all of his questions. For no reason. Manipulating Reiner at this point does nothing. Reiner does nothing after this scene. He's literally just like this like fucking... this dude who just wants to... all he wants to do is die. He has a few moments in his Titan form after this, but like he really doesn't do much. The scene doesn't serve to do anything other than make me wonder why he fucking asked this question when he knew the answer to it, right? That's one thing. How about this? How about this? You two, you're not soldiers, you're not warriors, you're just murderers. You massacred people who'd done nothing wrong. You're mass murderers. And they didn't even have to atone for it. No one had to atone for it. Reiner didn't have to atone. Annie didn't have to atone. I mean, Bert got fucked. Get fucked, Bert. But it's like... how about this? Why did we even go to paths to have this interaction with Ymir? You're no slave. You're no god. You're just a person. You don't need to serve anyone. Except Karl fucking Fritz. For 2,000 years. Like, why? Like, he's telling her she doesn't need to, but she still does. Like, there's... how about this? When he, like, the fucking friend zoning of Mikasa. Why is Mikasa just like his world now? You'll never have to take care of me again. Like, I don't know. It's just like, you get to this point and it's just like, why did he write this, man? Why? Yeah, this was my biggest problem, was what he did to characters, what he did to the characters. Like, literally leaving aside everything else, right? I was pro genocide ending just because it was what Eren wanted to do. But if Eren was trying to do something else, I'd be fine with him doing something else. And I didn't get the genocide ending, and that's not even why I'm mad, right? Like, Eren still almost effectively accomplished his goals, almost. But what I like the most about Attack on Titan, if you were to ask me at any point in time before the last chapter end, what do you like about Attack on Titan? I'd be like, yo, it's got really good character development, right? Like, it's really cool watching the story of someone who grows up hating something to growing up understanding it and then fighting for stuff. And it was just, like, Eren's a super compelling character. And, like, you get to see him go from, like, I want to kill all the Titans to, if we destroy our enemies over there, will we finally be free? Like, he's seeking freedom. He's a freedom-fighting Andy, bro. Just wanting to escape life in his, like, metaphorical and quite literal cage. But all of that was just a persona used to get away, or to get from point A to point B in the story. it wasn't really real, right? Because all of that was just him pretending. He wasn't really like that. In reality, he is still the same selfish. He's selfish. He cares about everything. He doesn't want to really kill everyone. He doesn't want to kill himself. He wants to be with Mikasa. Like, none of that was in the character we watched develop. Like, him cutting ties, like, I'm not trying to just, like, say, like, being edgy is the only good way. But, like, the way he developed made a lot of sense to me. So just undoing it just doesn't really, I don't know. It sits really wrong with me. It really feels like, I don't know. Anyways, that was only half the chapter. Let's keep talking. So basically, after everyone gets untitanized, right? All the shifters come out at the same time, right? All the dust on them because they got wormed last episode or last chapter, and with tears in their eyes, they just start thanking Eren for what he did. Every single one of them. This includes Reiner. This includes fucking everyone. What? So let's talk about the warrior unit. Why did they exist again? The Alliance? Why did they exist again? They literally existed to prevent genocide. They wanted to stop the founding Titan from using its powers to wipe out the Earth. And they're literally thanking him for not wiping out 20% of the Earth. Because they're now in a really good spot. Like, what? Are you kidding me, bro? Like, they were all banding together to stop this super monster from wiping out the world, and then he wipes out 80% of the world and leaves them in a good spot. They're all like, oh yeah, thanks, bro. You really were the coolest guy. I just think it's weird. Because, like, sure, at least the Eldian forces knew that Eren wasn't all bad, but the warriors didn't. And Annie and Reiner still get, like, emotional about the sacrifice. I don't know, just weird. I don't know. And speaking of Annie, dude, Annie, okay, I hate Annie as a character, and here's why. Completely personal opinion. All right, I know there's a lot of Annie bros out there, and like, don't get me wrong, bro, she's banging, but let's look at what she did this whole story just as a character. What'd she do? Okay, so she infiltrates the walls with Reiner and the boys. Okay, yeah, she helps train up. So we get the whole thing with the female Titan, where she just starts slaughtering the Survey Corps, and she single-handedly wipes out a good like 70% of the current active Survey Corps. After getting to know all of them, right? So that was like a calculated, like, wow, that's kind of fucked up. You're doing this obviously like for a greater goal, but like that was fucked up. Okay. And then she gets into her big fight with Eren in the city after getting caught, and she goes crystal mode. Okay. She's crystalled out of the story. 100 chapters go by. Where the fuck did Annie go? Oh, there she is. Alright, Annie's back in the story. What's she doing? She's eating pie. Funny Annie, classic. Yeah, no, so let's stop fighting. We kind of need all the power we could get. Yeah, Annie, why don't you just help us out? Oh yeah, sure. We'll forget about all that. Yeah, sure. Like, what? So Annie literally, like, doesn't get punished at all for what she did, which was just mass murder of civilians. Whether she thought it was wrong or not doesn't mean jack shit, right? She was sent there to just massacre people. And she gets her best possible ending, right? Because her dad didn't die. That was the only other little part of her that even had character, right? She would have little flashbacks to her dad teaching her how to kick and shit. Or like, even if the whole world's against you, I'm with you, Annie. And it's like, okay, cool, but he's in Marley, so he's just gonna die, right? To the rumbling, right? So he's just in Marley, right? The place that got fucking rumbled, so he should be dead? But he's not. He's not dead at all. In fact, he's alive. And they get to reunite. And that's all. She just gets a happy ending. She went out, failed her mission, killed a bunch of people, and got to reunite with her dad. So, yeah. Nice character. Yeah. And, like, the worst part is that her dad survived from Marley, right? So hypothetically, unless you want to tell me some weird freak accident happened where only Annie's dad made it out of Marley's getting stomped, I'm sure a good amount of them are left. And these are the people that literally are like the starters of this entire fucking war. So when you rumbled 80% of the world, you didn't even start by killing off entirely the people in the war. You left them alive. You left alive people who, before you rumbled the entire world, had reasons to kill you. Why? And they're still alive. Are you, like, ancestry people, like people who give a shit about their ancestors a lot, will 100% go to war over this. If you tell me realistically that if you knew that this nation of people just fucking annihilated the world, like as soon as you're off your ass and you have a force good enough to take them out, you take them out, bro. They killed the whole world. Like, what? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It literally makes no sense, right? So these seeds of revenge are just waiting to be sowed because they probably didn't kill everyone in Marley, right? I'm not tripping, right? It's not a wild stretch to guess that if one person from Marley lived, more people from Marley lived. And this is where a lot of that concentrated hatred was, right? They're not going to just be like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, you guys killed literally my entire town and the rest of the world. No more Titans though? Yep, that's good. Like, them not being Titans isn't going to take away the fact that they were on the side of the dude who just purged the earth. Like, he didn't really feel like a neutral enemy at this point. He felt like he came from paradise, right? That was their perspective. Like, everyone wanted to kill the giant attack titan and wipe out paradise. It wasn't just like, yeah, we'll stop the attack titan and then just leave paradise alone. Like, that was never a thing, right? If anything, they just take them over because they're weak now and they have all this fucking moon rock under the base. Like, okay. Also, let's just mention that as soon as everyone gets untitanized and the wave of the last military on the ground meets up with the untitanized shifters, and they ask them, what's good, they get talk no jutsu'd by Armin. Armin just is like, yeah, guys, don't shoot. And they're like, all right. Yeah. Like, what? Why is it not on site? I don't get it at all. That's not how war works. Regardless, I expected Armin to do some crazy bullshit because he's been doing shit like that since post-time skip, so it's whatever. But let's talk about Historia. So Historia also came back. So what was the point of her entire character? She was really important in the middle of the story, but only barely. And she was like, so when at the start of it, right? So, like, let me get this out of the way. As far as shipping goes, don't give a fuck. In fact, I'm anti most ships. But I thought that a lot of Eren's motivations, he was really not down for sacrificing Historia, which at the time, I don't know, she's cute. I could attribute it to him maybe having a crush on her, or it just being a friend, right? She's one of the boys from the scouts from the good old days. You got to protect her. You want her to live out her best life, whatever. I thought, there's still like a decent chance that, since they brought up the fact that she mysteriously gets impregnated, and the fact that she has royal blood, which means that she could have a baby that could be used to activate the rumbling if Eren touched, like, I thought that she would be more pivotal to the story. But what did she end up being? She was nothing. Like, she got knocked up by her childhood bully, the farmer. Sure. There's all these random scenes of her just waiting, not being able to contribute anymore because she's pregnant. We think, okay, her last contribution will be the baby. And she has the baby, and it's the farmers. So you're sitting here like, why was it even teased? What was the point? I don't really understand why all those panels were even wasted, right? Like, why even panel back to her if it's some random fuck baby, right? Like, literally, what's the point? Like, I'm not even, like, me talking about what I wish happened is moot, right? Because, like, there's a lot of things I wish happened. But we can talk about what did happen, which was pretty much nothing, right? She like and Eren doesn't even get a good ending. Eren just fucking dies and he doesn't get to get with either of them. Eren literally gets with neither of them and dies like his brother. Just an incel. Nah, I'm not gonna say that, but Jesus. And finally, just for just to put all my dice on the table, fuck Gabby, duh. I really wanted to know why she was introduced at all, right? So all the main plot threads around her revolved around the dangers of like racism and how hatred can be passed down generationally and stuff like that, right? A lot, in my opinion, a lot of the character traits or a lot of the like main, I guess, takeaways from her were not unique. That I think that's a big reason why I didn't really care for her is that like nothing she really brought was unique. Like, okay, you can pass down hatred, but we've already seen that through the Eldians and shit, right? Like we've seen all the shit with like Grisha and his family. Like it feels like beating a dead horse, right? And the only reason I say that is because all she did that was noteworthy was show up and kill fucking Sasha. Like, that's literally all she did. And what was the cost? What was the moral of the story? What? Why did Sasha die? That's what I wanted. So, like, because, like, I fucking, like, as soon as Sasha died, I didn't really care. All right, I'll be real with you guys. I'm not a Sasha fan. That being said, what I am very against is characters dying for no fucking reason. And she died to a fucking what seemed to like Gabby feels like a plot device. She literally felt like she had very small parallels to Eren. So it seemed like she'd be like a main character on the warrior side, but she didn't really do anything except kill a main character and then fuck off and die and then get brought back to life to live her life out without powers later. Like, as far as like the morals of her character go, I just don't see what the payoff was. So what I'm left with is just a dead character. That's how I see it. I don't know. Yeah. So those were my thoughts on the last chapter. So what does that mean? It's hard to say. Going into this, like going into 138, I'd rate SNK a hard as fuck 9.5 out of 10, and with easy fucking justification for rating it a 10 after the ending was anything other than atrocious, retroactively ruining garbage, right? But I didn't get that. So what does it mean? I can't honestly say I can ignore this. Like it felt like it was written out of spite. It really did. It felt like this whole thing was written out of spite. It feels like I invested a lot of time in characters that were just fucking hollow and pointless. And it feels like the story was super contrived for no fucking reason. And it was so contrived that all of his like simple mistakes look even more retarded, right? Because if you go back in time, Eren shouldn't be making mistakes with fucking foresight. Ever. And he has control, like the founding Titan has, while you're in paths, you have control over the non-shifting Titans, right? While you're in paths, you can do that. That's why he was able to just direct Diana away from Bert. So like, is he responsible for all the fucking non-shifter related deaths too? Like, was he intentionally having every single non-shifter Titan kill non-important people on purpose so that important people would live to fill in their role here in this like bullshit destiny that he saw play out? Like, it literally makes no sense, right? And it's crazy to me because I went into this thinking, okay, as long as these people who have been shilling EH get blown out and Eren accomplishes his goals, as long as that happens, I'll probably be happy with the ending. And both of those things happened, and I hate it. Like, how did this happen? Like, why? I really feel like, oh, it really just feels, yeah, like spiteful. I don't know. Like, the worst thing is, like, I get, like, secondhand embarrassment from, like, even recommending this shit to people. Like, just thinking about, like, all these people where I was like, yeah, bro, Attack on Titan's sweet, bro. Like, it's fucking sweet. It's really, really cool character, just, really dark, you know? It has all these really interesting themes and complex characters. And then all of it gets shit on in one chapter. Like, I feel like you have to go out of your way to do something like this. Like, don't get me wrong, right? Like, I'm on the copium tank as much as the next guy, but I cannot buy into the super copium. That would be either A, an anime only ending, B, a fucking, this was an April Fool's joke, right? I know that there was like 2 months in between chapter 138, 139. Maybe there's time for him to write a second one and he'll release it later. Or maybe he'll invest in this like loop theory and he'll give us a different anime only ending. That being said, I don't even want to watch the fucking anime anymore. The thought of seeing this ending actualized makes me so mad that I don't even want to touch the fucking rest of this show. I'm only on like what episode 15 of season 4? Or not even that. I'm on like episode 10. I still have like 6 episodes left of the 4th season, and I don't even want to start the last one because it's getting a part 2, right? Like, having to watch this shit get animated would fucking infuriate me. On top of, I'm gonna have to see the fucking reaction of all of you normies, all the normies later who watch the anime and either praise it because they don't get it, or they also hate it, and like I fucking sympathize with them, right? I would definitely sympathize with all these other people who are super invested in the anime only. And just the thought of all these people having to go through that and having to go like these, I don't know, man. I'm going through some shit, bro. It feels like these are just like it's like swelling negative emotions, man. Like, I wouldn't wish this on anyone. It's like you invest all this time into a series, right? And then it's just fucking for nothing. And like, I feel like it's hard to not reach this conclusion. I'd be interested if you genuinely liked this. I don't care if you liked certain parts of it, all right? Because I did too. I did like certain parts. I didn't mind the Tatake part, you know, where he was like fight into the mirror, and then it paid off by him speaking to all the people. I didn't mind that. That was fine. There were parts that I didn't mind, but as a whole, I think this thing is just like a fucking slap in the face to the whole series, easily. So, yeah. I don't know. I had to get this shit off my chest, man. I've been wallowing in sorrow for like the past few days and just analyzing it and trying to get my thoughts in order. I didn't want to make a video without really thinking it through, and without like, you know, hopefully the real chapter coming out, but it did. So yeah, let me know down below what your thoughts on the last chapter were. Parts you were satisfied with, parts you were dissatisfied with, if I got the whole picture right. Because like I said, this is just how I interpreted the ending, right? Like, yeah. So, till then. Yeah, peace. Yo, also, check out my channel. I react to anime and stuff. Haha.